Happy 4th of July, everybody. This is Jonas. Thank you very much for joining me. You can find me on Twitter. I am at Big Jonas. You can also find me on YouTube, which you're probably watching right now. All right, let's take a look at Bitcoin here. Now, we're looking at the 1 hour chart, and we're going to start with the 1 hour, and I'm going to zoom out to much greater time frames here. So, what are we looking at here? This is kind of our bull channel that was started when we bottomed back on June 24th at a price around 57.73 and 10 cents. And from there, we basically have been riding the top of this channel. We broke it, and this was kind of that little short squeeze trap where when we broke this channel, a lot of shorts started to accumulate, and this nice bull green candle, a little consolidation, and then another push higher, which topped us right at our top of our channel, was allowed to happen, and that kind of great of force because the breaking of this channel put too many shorts on the wrong side of the trade. And when that happens and the shorts have to cover, you actually get a lot more volume momentum coming in than you otherwise would if it were a kind of a nondescript green candle. So that led to this nice top off, some good consolidation sideways where we actually formed a pennant. And then as soon as we broke the pennant, we had a nice bullish follow through of our green candle, which once again was topped off at our upper resistance line. We tried to get through it a couple times here. And you can see how wide our Bollingers were here. This is our top, and this blue here is our bottom, and that needed many hours to consolidate and tighten. And as soon as they tightened, right here, we had an actual move in the market, and then a little fake out, and then our dump. And what has happened is this middle channel support area, I'll call it an area because you can clearly see that, at least on the 1 hour, we did break through that channel there on this green candle. We touched it, we held it, we broke it. Had a nice little hammer here though, nice little short-term bottom hammer. You can see it right there. That basically played out and allowed this nice move. And then similarly, we had a green wick that broke our channel there, which we had seen a couple times. This is what we call a little FOMO wick here, where let's say you're watching for a breakout of this channel line and it does, then you maybe want to jump on that. But in reality, that's the worst thing you can do because this is the end of this move and kind of not the beginning or the middle. And that wick came back down pretty quickly because this resistance is very strong. We've seen it hold pretty much since June 23rd or so. And then really prior to that, the last time we were actually above it, this channel line was, before that a day earlier. So this channel has held very strong as resistance, and the support is a little tricky because we saw how it broke and that kind of led to this move here. So, we can break this once again, and that does not necessarily mean this bullish momentum, has completely broken. If we put in a lower low, then that would basically mean that if we end up getting back to the if we break that 6,000 again, that 6,000 psychological support line, and start retesting these lower areas here, then that would definitely be a concern. But for now, we're holding above our middle channel support. On our hourly chart here, we have a couple long wicks here, suggesting that these bullish moves, which are actually slightly because they're being bought up. Whenever the price gets too low, this is being bought up, this is being bought up, low to moderate volume here. We do see our green spikes though. This one here obviously was bigger than this one, but this one here was much less behind it. You can clearly see, maybe the bulls might be running out of a little steam here, as we get a little less volume on our latest green candle. So let's talk about indicators here. We have our RSI. We see our line here of support that broke we were able to punch back through it, and now we kind of broke down through it again. This line hasn't really shown strong resistance yet. Every time we're able to pretty much bust through it when we do need to break back into it. So a turnaround here and a push higher, I don't see this line as strong resistance yet, but it definitely can become that, especially if you see the price get firmly rejected from it. But currently we haven't seen that. It seems to be able to get up pretty easy and then kind of down easy. And of course, every time we're in this area here, you know, we get pretty quickly rejected here. These two were much higher. This basically bullish move again is weaker than the previous two moves. So this is another sign that we're seeing some weakness in these moves here, even though the price continues to still hold, let's say above $500 here. Let's go to the 4 hour and see if we see anything different on the chart here. Now, it gives you a broader view. We clearly see our candles here, and we see how our middle support is basically held strong. Remember, we can break our middle support. We can break our middle support, and we can go down to our lower support and still be in our bullish uptrend here. Right now, let's say if we were kind of very methodically kind of trickle staircase down, somewhere around 63.50, maybe $6,400 still puts us in our lower channel support there. We can see our 4 hour RSI. Let's see, get this line moved a little bit, something like, I guess we can do that. Yeah, because really that touched 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I do something like this, and this gives the 4 hour kind of a lot of leeway here. We got a little head and shoulders slowly beginning to form here on our RSI, and that may correspond to um, the similar price action here. And we have a bearish cross here on our stock, which our blue here has crossed bearishly over our red there. An indicator I really like to use. So we talk about lines and we talk about supports and resistances, but the histogram is also very important. Some people use the MACD histogram. I really like this squeeze momentum indicator. You can find it under indicators, under public library, and it's actually the top one here. And visual is a great way. I'm very visual person. I really like to be able to see a trend with different shapes and use different shapes to understand the strength and kind of where we are in the whole scheme of things. So we'll use this 4 hour as an example here, and let's just go back to the beginning of June here. Kind of small peaks, nothing too high, nothing too low. And then you see basically here we had this massive kind of inverted big mountain here, upside down mountain, if you will. And this basically bottomed out and came back up, but you also see that the price really didn't shoot up as this was coming up, more of a leveling area here. But it did set a little trend here where we had a small uptick from around $6,300 to around $6,700. So this is an example of a kind of an oversold area where, even though we're in a downtrend, an oversold area, putting us here, basically potentially can show signs of stability when this gets a little oversold. Other circumstance here, we were a little oversold, but we really haven't been able to get any bullishness up until very recently, where we finally see some stronger mountains forming here. And this is our first larger bullish sign here. The problem with this right now is we're seeing it coming to the end of the mountain. Now we do have examples where we have double peaks, green with a green, and same with the red. We have a red, and then we still were not able to get higher here. So this bottoming of our green mountain does not necessarily mean that this trend has ended. But as soon as we start going to the red here, basically losing our momentum, that's something to keep an eye on. Let's go to the daily chart, kind of see what kind of candle we're putting in here. Kind of zoom in. and zoom in. And what we're looking at here, this is today's daily candle here, kind of like a spinning top almost. We have a longer wick on top, and we have a decent sized wick on the bottom. So even though we are finding some stability and we are kind of inside the body of the previous day's candle, at least for now, um, the lower we close, and what time is, oh, we just closed. Okay, so this one is official. So that was our yesterday's candle here. Kind of a spinning top with a little tendency towards bearishness, just because of the height of the wick on top is a good 2 times, I'd say, lower than our bottom wick there. Firm rejection, long wick, short body. We can definitely hold a sideways pattern, but this kind of says bearishness, at least in this moment right now. And that kind of sets up a test of our lower support if that happens there. Otherwise, we can kind of hold on into the body of this candle for the day and basically kind of keep that momentum there if we can hug that middle channel support line as well. Let's look at our RSI on our daily. Now you see how low we got back, mid June there, and the RSI doesn't mark the bottom because um, you have your RSI which broke 30. Here when the price was 6,100, and then we have a price of $5,700 down here, and your RSI, is way over 30. So a bottoming of the RSI does not necessarily mean that the price has bottomed. It just kind of shows a momentum area there. So even though this was the bottom here on June 13th, our actual bottom, really didn't happen till almost a week later. Um, where we basically were bottom, came up, came down, held a slightly higher low, hold a higher low, hold a higher low, hold a higher low, barely right here, and then boom. And this is our channel here. Now, we see strong rejections in our RSI, kind of in the maybe the 60 area here, like right there, right about 60. We're only at 50 right here too, so there's definitely room to climb in the RSI. We are no means I'd say overbought. Where we're stopping now, do we see any kind of history from this area here in the RSI? A little bit here, a little bit here. It definitely does touch this area here. It was rejected, broke through, broke down, broke through, broke down. So we're hitting here. So not too much. I wouldn't really put too much into this current RSI area yet. Um, this spiked up pretty high pretty quickly too, so consolidation would not be the worst thing. We have actually a decent bear cross here where we cross bearish. We try to punch bullish there. You can just barely see it where we cross bearish where the blue crossed the red. Then it almost appeared like the blue was kind of crossed over the red, which would have been a bullish signal. And if you can get down there, it never happened. They kind of both were rejected, and now the blue is just skimming off the red and just angled down. This could be our first sign that we're really about to lose some serious steam here. And as we start losing this area here on top, then we can definitely come right down here. And we'll take a look at our squeeze momentum here. Now, this clearly gives you, and this is our daily here. So this is this peak obviously was our parabolic move to 20,000. You see how crazy that is. Then you see our really stiff pullback down here, kind of bouncing around, very bearish, very bearish. However, we have these double peak, we have a green. We have a double peak, we have a green. Now we have a double peak, and look at that on our daily, our very first green here. So the green does not necessarily mean that all these days here are green, not at all. It's about momentum. It's about the market momentum. So we've shifted a momentum from bearishness, couldn't get up, bearishness, and now we've actually poked a green candle there. The question is, are one of these little mountains going to be something, decent size, something, this big or this big, or something kind of crappy and this big? And, we have circumstances I mean, you can see how everything was very kind of small, 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 and then all of a sudden, this, candles just blew out of the water here. This is Mount Everest, and this is the Marianas Trench right here, and that's kind of the mixture in between here. So, this is kind of a cool way to get a sense of where we are in the grand scheme of things. You see something like this in the future, you realize how toppy you are, and then in other ways, you can kind of see when you're oversold, how maybe oversold you are, and the wider your time frames are, the more meaningful they are. So these peaks have more meaning on the daily than they would, let's say, on your hourly chart there. Let's go to the weekly chart. We're only halfway through the week here. And you see the squeeze, you see how high it got, you see how low it got. We're still in our bearish trend here, kind of flattened out, still trying to peak higher here. A green in a couple weeks from now would be very encouraging. We still have a bullish cross on our stock RSI, nice bullish cross there, so there's nothing wrong with that. On our actual RSI, remember, this is the weekly RSI here. Got a beautiful uptick here. So these are definitely bullish indicators here. Are we going to hit some resistance? Where's our short-term resistance here? Maybe it's right here. Maybe this is our kind of RSI channel here on our weekly time frame. Kind of this descending wedge here where we've bottom, top, bottom, and are we going to go top out here sometime, let's say in August potentially? So we have a bullish uptick. These are good, but you zoom out and you look at the bottoming of our 2015 parabolic move. Here was a 2015 parabolic move, came down, and you see how low the weekly RSI can get. At that point, it got to 28, and that you know signified kind of a bottoming area there in the price of Bitcoin. And then from there, it basically was off to the races there. So, you know, we're seeing a little bullishness in our RSI, but we also see that how low we could go if this continues to kind of hold this descending wedge here. And this is definitely something you want to keep an eye on, because the wider your time frames are, obviously the more meaningful they are in terms of charting there. And we see our candle here. Let's go to a slightly different chart here, clean it up, and I'm just going to clean up some of our indicators here so we can hide these guys and make it a little more cleaner. Bingo. Okay, so this is our weekly chart. This is our weekly candle here. Remember, we're only halfway through the week here. So, our last week's candle could have been a nice tweezer bottom there. We have almost tweezer bottom. We have nice wick. We have a nice green candle there, nice green close. We're kind of following through on that. We do have currently, not the best looking wick right here, but remember, we can close the week out strong and make this a really nice green candle. However, we cannot, negate the fact that we are putting in some sort of a bear flag here. Now, what's a bear flag? We kind of have a parallel. Flags are parallel, pennants are more like triangles. Where we could basically be doing something like this. Let's say more like that. Where these tend to break bearish. We have this. We could go maybe one more week. This could be the end, or maybe it's only this long here, and then after this week, maybe there's some steam that's lost, and we start to do something like that. Let's make that red because we're going down there. So, this is kind of a bear flag here, so you can't discount that. Even though we have really nice green candles here, this is a green candle. This was the green candle we had back in April. That's a bullish move there. These are little bullish moves, little bit, little bit, little bit. So as we pull up our volume here, we still see how low our volume is. We see when it was big, we see how it's low. So if you're talking about trend changes, if you're talking about, is this the bottom? We're not seeing that kind of volume to confirm that. If we keep riding higher, you might see that more volume coming in. But we're basically halfway through the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, almost halfway. And we have It's like a little less than half of last week's previous volume there. So we could do a similar size volume this week, very possible. But this is in no means like, big money still coming into the market here. And let's keep a look at our overall appearance here. We have a very big, excuse me here, a very big parabolic move that we are really still unwinding from. We can't discount the fact that the price of Bitcoin went from 7,000 to 20,000 in 3 weeks. That unwind is still happening here. You have to ask yourself, look at these weeks here back. Let me hide our volume again. Look at these weeks here back in end of April. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the ninth week was our reversal week there. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Basically, a full month of June was pretty nasty, where we were at 3,000. We ended June at about 1,800, and then from there, boom, reversal, and then we were off to the races there. So this was super bullish, even back in April, and it was beginning to show those signs of something big was coming. But after that, the move got so quick. So you see how flat the price of Bitcoin is here. Flat, 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 slightly up, flat, slightly up. And then right around June, of 16, you have that first push where, oh, this is real. We're basically out of the mid hundreds and we're starting to get in the 700 range, consolidation, and then we start to take off here. This move was so epic in such a short amount of time. I mean, we're talking from $1,000 right around April, to $20,000, by December there. That happened so fast. That is a 20 bag. It's almost 20 bag. It's a 10 bag will be 10 times, 20 bag is 20 times. $1,000 back then was back in right, beginning April of 2017, became $20,000, and $10,000 became $200,000. Obviously, if you were able to turn it into fiat at the top. So the reason we're looking at this, the reason I keep emphasizing this pattern here, is this is such an amazing parabolic move, hyperwave, that this could take longer than just 4 or 5 months to kind of play out. Bitcoin has to become cheap again, has to become crazy cheap to a point where people can be like, oh, okay, now I feel like it's a good bargain where I'm kind of hold it no matter what your little quick fluctuations are, because I feel we have bottom in our uptrend. Now, the reason we've been hanging out at 6,000 for such a while here is because there's a lot of history on our parabolic move up. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks here, a 6 week here when we had our bottom in February, 7, 8. So we now have 8 weeks of price history right at $6,000. So, excuse me, so two things are happening here. We're showing right now how strong the $6,000 level is, give or take a few $100s. But if we break this down, then the 6,000 level is going to be fierce resistance, because if we break through it, then people are not willing to hold over $6,000, and that's a whole different ballgame. But we're not there yet. We're seeing that 6,000, which these weeks here of a little consolidation, a solid bounce here in February, and now the past 2 weeks here has shown being pretty strong. So until we break this, this can hold with this little momentum here. The problem with that, though, is that we have all this space where I'm looking here. I want date range. So we have all this space here that basically took, let's see, we were here and here. So let's go a full year right there. So 610 February. Okay, so so a full year from October to October. Price of Bitcoin $700. A year later, price of Bitcoin $6,000. So that in itself 10 bagged, and never corrected from it yet. So we still haven't had the correction, you could argue, from our first parabolic not parabolic move, but our first 10 bag move we basically had in this thing here. And that hasn't corrected yet. So we're looking at, the two stories of Bitcoin right now is the Bitcoin above $6,000 and the Bitcoin below $6,000. And Bitcoin below $6,000 has really a lot of history. Basically, as low as $1,000 to $2,000 and $3,000. A lot of history here, a lot of areas here where we found support. Boom, resistance, resistance, broke it, touched it as support. Right around $3,000. Very interesting area there. Once again, we went up here, we hit right at $5,000, rejected, came down, blasted through it, touched it almost as support, and bam, we were off there. Also, 5,000, a psychological number to think about as well. So, there's lots of other areas south of 6,000 that have a whole different story about them that can definitely be in play if we are unable to hold 6,000. But we're not there yet. Do one more chart here on the monthly, and these are important too. Again, you have a good sense here, and I want to pull up the Bollingers because this is a great understanding of here of how insane this move was. Um, Nice kind of consistent upper flow here, and then the price rode the upper Bollinger all the way during its parabolic move, broke through it. And again, this is the monthly, so the longer your time frame is, the more meaningful these moves are, and the more out of the standard deviation they become. So, as soon as we poke through our, on the monthly here on the upper Bollinger, this was incredibly overbought, and we saw how this wick brought us down here. We were at almost 5,000. The wick brought us down to 3,000 there. Big pullback. The initial time we broke through with such vengeance, and then sure enough, we did it again, and we did it again, really big time. And then our last candle here, this height is just, it's just amazing how high this got outside of the upper Bollinger on the monthly chart. This is an unbelievably outside of the standard deviation move that is insane, and it shows it, and the market responded to it by the nastiest of candles that preceded it coming in January that really pulled the price back into the Bollingers, and it's where it's been ever since. So where are we looking for a really nice bounce support if we're unable to hold here? Well, right now, where is our middle Bollinger? Right now, our middle Bollinger is at 54.75 and slowly rising. So 54.75, a couple days will be around $5,500. It's a very strong support line because it is currently the middle Bollinger line, and the price has yet to touch it. And because right here we see how the price was rejected by the upper Bollinger, and then again couldn't get to it again, this basically showed that this run was over. So I look at the middle here as very meaningful, and a break of 6,000, I'd be looking for the middle Bollinger as an initial test area here, which will currently be somewhere around $5,500. And we'll kind of see how the price reacts if it does get down there. But we see our monthly, again, our month only started 4 days ago. So we're coming off two nasty red candles back to back on our monthly here. We just started off very small, obviously not a lot of information to glean from this candle here. I would say one thing though, I'd be very surprised if we have found our bottom for July. And the reason for that is we really don't have any wick here at the bottom of our candle here, and I really like to see, we have a little one. It's so small it's not even worth looking at, because here was an example of a really small wick here was an example of where we basically the month of May of 2017, the very first day of May was the low of the month there, but that was in our major uptrend here. So it's possible that we've put in our wick for the month. Our low this month is 62.56, and our current, yeah, so 52.56. So it's just, and our open was 63. So basically our wick is comprised of around $130 or so. So I don't believe that that is the low of the month. I believe the low of the month of July is really yet to come, but we will see how the price action plays out here. So this is Bitcoin from our daily chart all the way up to our monthly chart. Let's our hourly chart all the way up to our monthly chart. Let's go in just a little closer. Look at our hourly here, kind of see what we're looking at here. Same deal. We are finding a little support on our middle channel, kind of exactly where we've seen it before. You know, if it breaks, our middle channel becomes resistance, makes it a little harder to break through. We're seeing a slight decline all the way across the board here on our price and our RSI as well. Look for what happens in our levels here. Let's see where our supports are. So boom. Right, yeah, right there. Okay, so this is our trend line. We want to hold this. We're basically broke through it. So you want to see the RSI begin to curve and try and bust higher and bust above this line here and get back into our zone here, which would signify, you know, another green candle spike there. But we're going to see how it reacts when we get to these lower points here. Let's look at the shorts and the longs, and then we'll wrap this up. So I keep watching Bitcoin shorts and Bitcoin longs. Let's start with the shorts and get a sense of where we're at here. Um, let's go 6 hour. Okay, so this is our shorts channel here that we've been watching for some time. I want to zoom out though, and I want to make note. Again, I'm on the 6 hour chart here. I want to make note of this gap right here. It happened back in April of our big short squeeze we had when shorts were way up here. Big green candle comes in the price. Shorts get liquidated super quickly, and it happened so fast that we actually had a gap in the price action where the price dropped so it rose so precipitously that the shorts there was no value here. It basically the price skipped from here to here kind of instantly. And there's a gap. And charts don't like gaps. Charts like to fill gaps. Charts like to fill gaps. They don't like these gaps being open. And you know, every gap has been filled more or less. For this gap to be filled, you need the shorts to basically come up um, and get higher to at least right there at 37,000. So when we zoom out and we see kind of where we are now, we're down here. For this pattern, for the chart to be happy and to fill this gap here, these shorts eventually at some point will have to make it back up here. Now, they were climbing and they got firmly ejected because they were overextended. Kind of going a little closer, we're going to the 4 hour chart here. They fell through pretty precipitously. They broke down, they were oversold. And then we had our nice, you know, green candle there. Now this is the inverse. So when the shorts rise, that's either an assumption of the price of Bitcoin falling and or it is falling. So every time you see a green candle in shorts, that's basically a red candle, more or less, in Bitcoin. We topped off here, and then the price of Bitcoin shot up, meaning the shorts had to liquidate. And pretty quickly too. This was a 4 hour chart. So in a 4 hour span, in 8 hours, the shorts basically went top of channel, broke below bottom channel pretty quickly there. Kept falling and found support right here, which is actually a historic resistance line turned support line. So that's good to see. Now I'm assuming our shorts will test this bottom channel resistance line that used to be support is now resistance, and that's going to be an interesting moment there, because at that point there, if the shorts break through, that's bearish for Bitcoin. If this gets up here, gets rejected, and then keeps falling down here, that's a bullish move in Bitcoin. It has happened, or the market thinks it's going to happen. But remember, at some point, we do have to get way up here, and that will obviously take a lot longer unless the price moves quicker. If Bitcoin was starting to fail and was dumping, $700, several $100s quickly, you would see this shoot up pretty quickly here. So, something to keep an eye on. We're going to see how the price of Bitcoin interacts when the shorts get right up here. And lastly, we're looking at our longs here. 4-hour chart. Similarly, we've been in this kind of tight pattern since April. We did break through it here. I'm kind of hide our bollies. We did break through it here. So there's an oversold area here. And again, this is super bearishness. And then the longs decide, you know what, we're a little oversold. I'm a little more bullish in Bitcoin, and we shoot up. We keep getting rejected here, here, little wick here, by this top line here once more. And then we actually broke through. But we broke through, and now we're testing our previous very strong resistance line as support. This is very encouraging. You want to see it hold here. If the longs are able to hold this line and push higher, it's a very bullish sign for Bitcoin, saying that the market feels going higher and is willing to put its money into it. We do have a pretty nasty, I'm going to use one of my arrows already up here, really nasty shooting star there, though, on the 4-hour, which is a pretty firm rejection. You can kind of see it right there. That's clear. That's pretty strong rejection on the 4-hour. That basically shows that the longs got a little overextended, a little too bullish, and kind of pulled back. And then even in our nice bull move we had this morning, you're not seeing a lot of continuation with our longs here. So they're cautious. They want to test this line. They want to see if it holds as support. If it does hold as support and bounces off it, that's a bullish sign. If we get back into our channel here, then everything is back in play. Our bearish scenario is back in play. I'm going to borrow this arrow again, where, if we get back into our channel here, we're definitely going to test our middle and potentially our bottom here for more support. So again, the shorts and the longs give you a very good sense of where the market feels things are going. When they get too out of whack, it can signal a volatile move is about to happen. So keep an eye on these as well. Whew. All right. I hope everybody got a little information and a little value into me yapping away here. But, it's going to be a long summer. We're seeing some nice bullishness, but we're not really seeing the money flow that we really like to see, when we want to see, potential change in direction. So until these things actually show up, these are things that we're not going to basically confirm until we actually see, real money flow coming in. I do want to look at one thing here. Cryptocurrencies 1,607. We've actually increased how many new altcoins are on the market. This had broken to about 1580 something. So the past couple of weeks, we got at least 20 more exchanges that are showing some new ICO coins. Current market cap $269 billion. Excuse me. We were as low as about 250 a couple of weeks ago. 24-hour volume across the board, a little under 14 billion. And Bitcoin's dominance, I believe, peaked at 42 a couple days ago and is now at 41.8, which rose as all the altcoins sold off. Here's the thing, though, looking at historical data of Bitcoin. 3 billion, 3 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion, 4 billion, low 4 billions. Volume is low 4 billions, not terrible, but not back to where it used to be when we were doing, 8, 10, 12 billion dollars a day. So until we can get our volume money flow higher, it's important. We really want to hold this above 100 billion market cap here. 112, we were down to, I believe, as low as 104, 198, 100, and 405. So 104, 198 on June 23rd, 112. We really want to stay above 100. That would be good. If we broke that, then, a lot of lower numbers are in play. So, with that being said, thank you for joining me this evening. Remember, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Big Chonas. If you like this video, I would appreciate a like and a follow on YouTube. Stay safe out there, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we will talk to you guys soon.